I love this. I love that you guys are joining us. I see, who do I see? I feel like I'm looking at a little guest, Lexi and Dawn. I see Lawrence. I see Julie, Donna, Larissa, Charita, Jody, Betty. I see lots of people. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm Sara Kooperman. I'm the CEO of STW Fitness. Do me a favor, please. Move your mouse, if you would. Go down to the bottom of your screen. You're going to see the share screen button. Go to the left of it. You'll see the chat box. Oh my gosh, I love it. Joanne from Maryland is here. Siri said, welcome everybody. Happy you're here. Please type your name and where you're from. We'd love to know where you're from. And also this ensures that you know where the chat box is and how to use it. Hi, Larissa from Georgia. Hi, hello from Tampa. What we'd like you to do is please do type in comments, if you would. We love questions, we love comments, and we will respond to you. This is your webinar. This is our second diversity webinar, and I have some great people with me here today. Sheldon McBee is the Director of Personal Training at Universal Athletic Club and the Director of Education and Training for World of Dance Fitness. He has 19 years of experience in the health and fitness industry. We worked together through Les Mills, which was a long time. And that's how I got the pleasure of working with him and meeting his beautiful wife and kids. That was so fun. Who has a wonderful name, by the way. His wife's name is Sara.
That's
yeah,
right.
There we go. Okay, we've got Siri, and I want to make sure, Chilazi. Yeah.
Perfect.
I know, I'm rocking it. She's a certified group fitness professional presenter with 15 years of experience in the fitness industry. She's an academic researcher, you ready for this, guys, and an expert speaker specializing in behavioral science and gender equality in organizations. There you go. Gotta love Siri. We've got Alexis Perkins, who's the founder of Chair One Fitness, who is totally an inspiration and has taken Mania by storm. People just absolutely adore her. She's passionate about fitness, media, and business. She's competed in the OCB bodybuilding competition, and she owns the company called Chair One, which is Chair Fitness. And she's such a young, beautiful woman. I'm like, you work with active agers? She fell into this with such grace. So she's going to share some of her experience. Manuel Velasquez, who's a dear, dear friend. Yes, calm down, Manuel. He exudes versatility as a global wellness and continuing education provider, author, and mind-body master trainer. He is now head instructor at Rancho La Puerta Resort and Spa in Tecate, Mexico. Manuel does have to leave us after 20 minutes because he is the head instructor, and 3 of his staff just flaked out on him, so he's doing his duty. So I'm going to start with you, Sheldon, just because you were on our first diversity webinar, brought such wisdom to that. But how do you feel the climate has changed in the world since our previous webinar?
Yeah, well, first, Sara, I want to thank you for having all of us on here to continue this conversation. It is important not to let this go. You know, I'll speak about this from the perspective of where I sit as a Black man in this country. I work deep in the fitness industry. I also work for a private facility within this industry, and I deal with a lot of personnel and ensuring that we have an environment that that is meant to be diverse, inclusive, and have equal access to different tiers of our resources, services, and employment status. Back when we did that first webinar, it felt racially charged. It felt like, you know, let's really put it out there. What is going on in this world with the relationship between law enforcement and the Black community? And that was really a very red topic at the time we had that conversation. And it forced us to look at our own industry. And at the time we did that, we said to ourselves, okay, are we really exposing a marginalized culture right now with the Black community? Are we really doing all we can as a community as a whole to ensure that we feel part of this as a Black community? And it was very much about that. And I felt at the time that we did that webinar, we were exposing a lot of important things that needed to be talked about. now we're here today, and today, I think what I'm starting to see now is there are many, many different business entities that really started to question where are their practices in terms of what we're speaking about today. Even more now today, more than ever, you are hearing more leaders say, what is the difference between diversity and inclusiveness and equity? Can I really tell the difference? Are we practicing all three? Can we measure these three things at this point? Are we doing the right thing? Are we doing the right thing just by checking the box? Or are we doing the right thing because it fits our mission and our value? We're starting to see a lot more companies, especially in our industry, who are trying to think about how they're doing this and doing it in a real sustainable way, which, I think it's one of those interesting situations right now, Sara, that we're in where myself as a Black man in this industry, I see our industry trying, and I see these really good attempts at keeping this conversation open and alive. And we have a lot of work to do to really show that we're making progress. And that is where things are today. It is really just acknowledging where we are, understanding what's going on, and trying to find sustainable ways to understand how we can practice a diverse environment, having accessibility for marginalized communities, and having equity. So I think that is just different from where we were a few months ago when we had this conversation originally.
Yeah, it feels less hot.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Just a little bit less hot. Now, I wanted to include Manuel. Manuel's from Puerto Rico, and he's very often driving from Tecate, Mexico, where Rancho La Puerta is, up to San Diego, back through the border, back to Tecate, Mexico. And he also, he's Puerto Rican. And I thought that was really interesting because 33% of our population is Puerto Rican. And although we may not have the skin, we have an accent, we do deal with diversity issues.
But it's funny because we all have preconceptions. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Sara, for including me in this afternoon. I feel really, really happy to share my little part too. Not only as a Latino, as a gay man, as a Puerto Rican, looking like a German, according to some people. It's we all have preconceptions of how people look depending on your background or your source. And when I introduce myself here at the ranch and in the resort, I receive 140 people mostly every week. And when I say, hey, good morning, everybody, my name is, and I come from originally from Puerto Rico, and they're like, oh, what? Puerto Rican don't look like you, doesn't look like you. You look more European, or you look more, but your accent is not Puerto Rican. And I don't know anything about accents, I just try to communicate in English, and this is what it is. This is as lighter as I can make it. But we all have preconceptions, and we've always, I feel that we tend to forget that we are humans before before our ethnicity. We are humans beyond our background as Puerto Ricans, African Americans, Asian Americans, or any other label. And it is or gay men like I am. We are humans, and we tend to separate. Even though with the COVID now it's kind of shifting more. People are more willing to listen and to learn, and are more open after all the big challenges that we've been watching for the last year in terms of race and in terms of ethnicities. All the Latin Americans trying to cross the border to America, and all those situations that make everybody on the mainland to look what's going on, what's happening, who is these people, how can we help, where are we going with this, and we need to. My point is, we need to remember that before anything else, we're humans, and we all want to be loved. We all want to be taken care of. We want to be seen. We want to be able to achieve different things, and we want to feel that there is certain kind of fairness, and there's opportunities for all of us to reach and achieve those things equally. Not, yeah.
And we were chatting actually this afternoon when we were talking about the classes, and you mentioned that you almost always feel like you have to prove yourself.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, as a Puerto Rican in living in the U.S. and now actually living between the U.S. Okay, my life now that I think my life has always been one foot in the mainland and one foot in the Caribbean. Now it's one foot in the mainland, one foot in Mexico. It's crazy. But I when I look back, every time in every situation that I've been personally and professionally presenting in conferences everywhere around the nation and around the world. When I say I'm Puerto Rican, the question is, but do you have a green card? Are you legal? Are you? And there is this lack of knowledge about who Puerto Ricans are and how the mainland actually integrate or not Puerto Ricans. And this comes from media, theater, musical, even Broadway. Remember the 60s with the I Like to Live in America Broadway show, that there is a preconception of who we are, and truth or not, valuable or not, I always need to I feel the need, or people make me feel the need to prove that I am as legitimate here like any other U.S. citizen, because Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizen born. If you're naturally born in Puerto Rico, you are a U.S. citizen by law. Then, yeah, there is that kind of always. Yeah, I'm from Puerto Rico and I am American. I don't have a green card because I'm a U.S. citizen.
We were chatting a little bit also. I think, I can't remember, I think maybe it was Alexis, you brought it up, or Siri, but it's what happened with Donald Trump. And it makes you very aware.
Yeah. Yeah, well, after the hurricane and Puerto Rico having the relationship with the political relationship that we have, that's one thing, because we are not a state, we are a commonwealth, but the federal government, there is laws in place with the federal government that protect the island, and we have a socio-economic relationship. When Donald Trump said that we were an island far in the Caribbean, surrounded by water, and it was hard to get there, and then he showed up in front of this massive amount of people without housing that they have lost everything after the hurricane, and he go with toilet paper throwing on the audience. The feedback and the reaction for the Puerto Ricans was really intense, but I don't know if the American population who was watching understood how disrespectful was the whole situation, because FEMA, for example, has offices in the island and we're helping people. And it was so completely.
It's difficult because obviously you feel a strong identification to Puerto Rico, and you've got this Puerto Rican background, you've got an accent, you're gay, and it's like, throw it on. What else can you give me, right? And hope. But I loved your message, Manuel. We're just all people, and we all are the same. And during this time period, like Sheldon mentioned, at least it feels like there's some recognition. I look at this pandemic and I go, there's a lot of good that has come out of it. People have had the time to watch the news. People have had the time to look and realize about even pollution, Tesla cars, and now GM is suddenly going to switch by 2022 only selling electric cars. But it's the innate prejudice that some of us are born with that we need to be aware. I think, Alexis, you waved your hand.
Oh, I don't know if I waved. Definitely.
Yes, I'm not sure, but Manuel, I know you've got to go. I don't want you to be late to your class. I thank you, sir, for joining us. It's always a pleasure. Okay.
I'm gonna stay just 5 more minutes, but keep going.
Okay. Please, Alexis.
Manuel, I'm so glad that you spoke about, everybody being human. And I think that when you think about being human, we unintentionally do something. And that is we gravitate towards people who look like us, act like us, dress like us, or from the same place. It's not uncommon in a gym or in corporate for white females to end up congregating together and the Black females over there. It's just a natural thing. So while we're talking about this humanness, I think that in the fitness industry, it is our obligation to make sure that we are aware of that so that we can break down that and stop it from happening, like be very conscious of it. I know Sara had said earlier, and I've heard many people say it before, I don't see color. And some people wholeheartedly feel that way, but sometimes it's our obligation to actually see it so that we can see if we're unintentionally excluding a certain group of people or anything like that. And as far as that humanness, and noticing it when we're doing it ourselves, I think that like we said, sometimes people don't submit for certain things. Like at the conference, sometimes a Black presenter might not apply, a Puerto Rican might not apply. And it's like, well, what do you do? I think us as instructors, we need to open up and we need to do more and apply for more things. We could be holding ourselves back too, right? And then also for those who are in the corporate or at the top of their business, sometimes going that extra mile. I know for Chair One Fitness, we covered so many people, but I personally didn't know all these different people. So I had to go out and find somebody who was plus size. I had to find a wheelchair user, right? I had to be super proactive because the human side of us stays in that bubble of who we know. And unfortunately, that's what causes that, groups of people just staying in one group and not diversifying. But yeah, so
Manuel, please.
Can I say something? That is really important. And as leaders that we are, that people look at us like to follow whatever the gift we have and we share. And the people who like us and follow us are looking close on what we do and how we do it. And that is really important, as you say. It's get curious about who they are, what is being a Hispanic Latino, what is being an African American in the US, why the groups comes apart, what is common, and look for that commonality and explore how can you cross lines. Because as one of my good friends said to me, you never know in business, and we are doing business too, you never know who is in front of you, who's going to be your best, most amazing supporter ever, or your best friend next year, or you never know who's in front of you today. And if you're treating them with curiosity, respect, and getting to know them well, eventually. Well, right now I'm Zooming with a group of ladies who I met here 11 years ago, and now they are my supporters. They are paying basically my new car. And we love each other, and we not only share the time together working out, we share together recipes and things. And somebody's in surgery, and somebody is not joining because they have a family issue, and we are all connected. Because again, I go back. We are, as humans, we all look for the same: to be happy, to belong to, and to be successful in what it is. And that connection is super mega important.
You're absolutely right. And we do set an example. And Alexis, what I heard you say is unintentionally excluding people. And again, before we turned the camera on, I shared a story about how I have a good friend in California. She's Black, and it was like 8 years ago. And she walked up to me after a session and we were chatting, and she said, Sara, I know you do the marketing for SCW. Look around the room. And I looked around the room. Every single hanging banner in the room had a white person, a thin white person. And I was shocked. And we went right back home and we redid all our banners to include people of color, different colors, different sizes, different ethnicities. But it's this unintentional excluding, like you say, like seeks like, going in these rooms. We need to consciously make efforts. And the other thing I wanted to mention was, I feel very firmly that unfortunately what happens sometimes is we wait for people to apply for a job. We wait for them to apply for a position, and then we just blame it. Well, nobody applied, nobody of diverse background, nobody who was gay or Black or Hispanic or Asian applied for the position. And what we've done at SCW is we've gone out intentionally looking at Instagram, looking at Facebook. We have a couple of our staff members that do this regularly, pulling them in saying, would you like to present? And we realize, we're taking a chance here, but we're also making a stand. Siri, you've got to tell us about what you do and how you've done it.
Can I pick up first on something that you said, because it's the top of mind? Because I love the point that you're making, which is diversity is work. And I think it's important to just be very honest and upfront about that. The path of least resistance is to do the same thing we've done for 1,000 years and to always go with the majority. I was just preparing my sessions for the upcoming May Livestream Mania, and I have actually a session on diversity and inclusion. And I was looking for imagery for my slides, and I put, jump rope group fitness, and I get all young, white, skinny people who, by the way, have poor technique doing jump rope. And I probably spent 30 minutes trying to find pictures of people who look different, right? And diverse, and where we have different dimensions. So it does take more time. And as you were pointing out, it takes more effort. But the reward is worth it, not only because it's the right thing to do, but because we're going to attract more people. More people are going to see themselves reflected in our programming and are going to feel like they want to come to our classes and to our sessions and to our conferences. I was just posing this question to a colleague the other day about her kind of marketing materials and all the pictures she uses on social media and what she posts in her facility physically. I said, look at the pictures that you are posting, and now close your eyes and visualize the members in your class. Is it the same picture? And most often it's not, because my class participants, it's 18 to 80 plus years, and it's 100 pounds to 400 plus pounds, and anything and everything in between. So if we're only featuring young, skinny, women, whatever it is, like a very, very narrow template, we're just not communicating to the vast majority of people out there that they have a place in what we do. And I think it's a huge loss.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right with that. And we look at that diversity in marketing. And I like what you say, Siri, also. It makes financial sense to do this as well in your business. But there is an upfront cost. There's the time and the effort to seek these people and to work on it. Sheldon, you manage a facility and I think you work with a diverse population. How
Yes.
are you trying to work in this climate?
Well, we found that for us, we believe in having a vision. And if everybody in the facility, you talk to them, they understand and share the same vision. But that always had to start from the top down. It had to. It cannot start from the middle and work its way outward, or from the base and work up. So if you think about even the fitness industry in and of itself, quite often when you go to things like a mania or a fitness event of some type, quite often the folks are on the ground floor who are walking around taking sessions, and it's a quite diverse group. Fitness is diverse, but as you work your way up the corporate ladder into management, into ownership, that's where diversity starts to fall off, you see? And so it's very important that you have ownership, executive directors, and decision makers who are willing to just talk about this. Willing to talk about it. You cannot just, for us at least, I can speak for us, we cannot just check off a box and say, we need to be more diverse and we need to be more inclusive. Here's the things that we're going to do. Let's go. Because it's not ingrained in us really to make this action sit within us as intrinsic, you see? Mm-hmm. And so it was about having a regular conversation, saying a lot of hard things, challenging ourselves, and ensuring that we didn't have any barriers. The number one thing, if I could say anything, was making sure that people were respected and they're heard. And if there was not an immediate path up for somebody due to a barrier that we didn't know existed. We had to make sure that all of our staff, no matter where you were, felt heard. Sitting down with directors, asking their opinions and feedback on things. What is it that we could be doing better? What are things that we should be working on? What is working? At the very least, it helped improve some morale. People felt part of the bigger picture and didn't feel left out or felt like they just didn't exist. It's just something that we had to do. But without that real buildup of a mission and a vision from the top down, it just could not happen. You see, so it happens from ownership down to directors and then down to the rest of the team in that specific order. So for us, that had to be the biggest thing, starting from the top down.
Yeah, and I know you know this, Sheldon, but when I was the CEO of Les Mills Midwest, SCW owned Les Mills Midwest. We distributed the program for 10 years. I was the only female agent worldwide out of 48 different agencies that managed 80 countries. Now they're well over 100. But it was really shocking to me because it's a group exercise program. And I remember going to one of the meetings, and Alexis, I'm not sure if this is good or bad, but like I looked at my management team and it was like, bye Manuel, mwah, we love you. Thank you for coming. Teach a good class. So my management team was all female. Even my director of sales was female. And somebody said to me, oh, you're all women. And I looked around and went, I didn't even realize it. But Alexis, like you said, it does happen naturally. And also a little bit of it, I might've been intentional. Because sometimes I feel like I'm the only woman in the room there. And when I Googled, after that statement, I Googled female CEO. And you know what was the number one picture that popped up? Okay, this was like about almost 8 years ago. It was CEO Barbie. And she was wearing this, it was a fabulous pink suit, but I'm not kidding you. It was in a box and it was CEO Barbie. And I thought, this is going to change. This is going to change because we have to be inclusive, make that decision, not wait for people to seek the opportunity, force or like you said, open the discussion,
right? Make
it open so that we can pull this in so that a little girl someday can look up and say, I can be vice president. Okay. So it's Alexis.
No, I was going to say, just to piggyback on that, I think a good thing to be proactive is reaching out to the people that you want to include. I had to do that with Chair One Fitness, and I will be honest and very transparent. It was very, very uncomfortable. I had a friend of mine set up a call. It was 5 young, very cool individuals who all had spinal cord injuries. And I don't know if it was in my head or if it was really happening, but I felt like when I was on this call to understand what their day-to-day was, to understand what we could do to provide better services for them, I literally felt like I was feeling the heat of you able-bodied BITCH on this call with us. You got the nerve. Like, that's how I felt on the inside. But I said, keep talking, keep getting the information, learn how to empathize, get yourself how you feel. And I could understand that would probably be hard for, I don't know, a white CEO. Hi, Black friend. We want to be more inclusive. Do you have any ideas? It could be a very uncomfortable thing, but the results are good. The results are information. The results are that people are aware that you are being proactive. So I'm just putting it out there. It is uncomfortable, but the result is great.
Yes, and it's very much worthwhile. Siri, you were going to talk a little bit about language also, because I think there's subtle mistakes we make, and these things can be addressed, again, intentionally. I love this. I love the diversity and intention that we're looking at.
Yeah, this is one of those classic things where small things can be big things, both in good ways and in bad ways. So I want an honest answer. I know most of you have your cameras off. It's okay. You can raise your hand by yourself. How many of you have said in class, Hi guys, welcome ladies. Where are my bar babes at? How about those cardio queens? How you feeling today? These are words, right? Queens, babes, ladies, guys, gals, that speak to a particular group of people and not others, right? I've had that thing happen where I'm like, oh, right, good morning, ladies. And then 5 minutes later, when I look in the background, I realize there's a couple of gentlemen in there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, did not mean to exclude them, but I did. And the other thing is, besides just women and men, there are people who don't identify on that binary either, right? They don't identify as a woman or man, as a he or she. They prefer other gender pronouns. They have other ways of defining their gender identity. And these are things we can't tell by looking at people. It's not on the surface. So my big shift in the last couple of years in all of my classes, actually all of my interactions with humans anywhere, is I've moved toward gender neutral language in terms like everyone, people, gang, team, friends, beautiful souls, tribe, whatever you want to call them. Something that includes everyone, regardless of how they might identify in terms of gender. And again, it's just smart. You might know that there are, 50 women who come to class and they all identify as women, and they love having you call them ladies. But what about the new people that you want to come to your class tomorrow, right? We're not just catering to who we already have. We are always wanting to keep the doors open so that more people and anyone, regardless of who they are, what their background is, as Manuel and Alexis were saying, we're all individuals, we're humans first, that any kind of human would feel comfortable walking into your class, your facility, your programming. So if you remember one thing from what I said today, I hope it's this: gender neutral language.
Gender neutral language. Love that. I think, Siri, that's extremely valuable. What did you do your research in?
So I'm an academic. I have a hidden second career in addition to my fitness career. Yeah. And I study gender equality primarily, but also diversity, equity, and inclusion more broadly in the workplace. And so my research focuses on what organizations can do proactively to make their cultures and their processes and even their physical environments more welcoming of all people. Because like all of you have made the point already, right? It's not the responsibility of those who are suffering from marginalization or discrimination to fix the situation. It's the people who are in power, who can lift up new voices, who can open the doors, who can start the conversation. It's their job to ask those questions of, how can we go further? Who might we unintentionally excluding? What more can we do to make this a welcoming environment?
I really like that, but I do have to say that I also very much respected what Alexis said, that it's up to us to make to make our own destiny and to apply for something, let's say, that we don't feel confident in. And I will tell you some statistics. Harvard did some research on this and found that men will apply for a job if they feel that they have 60% of the qualifications, whereas women will apply for the job only when they feel they have 100% of the qualities that the employer is looking for.
Yeah.
And I looked, before I got on this call, I was Googling. I know I sent you guys an article earlier this week, but I was Googling to see what happens to a Black person. I mean, Sheldon, do you feel like, I know you came from a very supportive family environment, but do you feel like you got this push from your family to succeed and excel?
Yeah, from a young age, my mother, she did not come from this country. She was Jamaican. My father, had really challenging upbringing. So when I was born, my brother and my sister, they took it upon themselves, my father especially, to sit down with me quite often and say, whether he was right or wrong, Sheldon, you are in an environment where it's going to feel like the world's against you. He would tell me that, and you have to overachieve on the expectations that you want to do. You have to exceed beyond expectations. That was really drilled into me constantly. So when it comes to seeking opportunity and is this right for me to do, just because of my personal background, yeah, I probably would be that person to say, look, I just need to get my foot in the door. Once I get my foot in the door and I have a chance to speak to someone, I just have to now exceed my expectation, you know? And I think when it comes to this specific topic that we're talking about now, one of the things that really has to happen, Sara, is what I think you're trying to do. And that is going out and seeking a diverse group to represent your education and your conferences, because it is inspiring to other people who may not know that they can actually do this. You know, one of the main reasons why I went out and said, I want to be part of what this is, because I saw other people who looked like me and shared the same culture that I had. And I saw myself in them and I thought I can do that. And I think that does create an opportunity for those by being proactive.
And I think to some extent, we have to make our own opportunities. I was also lucky. My dad was incredibly supportive, and I remember going into college and applying to attend college. I had a meeting with the dean, and I was being very, very quiet. And he asked a question about, my dance and my leadership background, whatever. And my father, in the middle of the interview, because he was in there with me and he was talking about me, he just looked at me and goes, if you don't tell them, how great you are, they're never going to know. It's up to you to make your opportunity. And I looked at him and I looked at the dean and I went, all right. And I just started talking. But there's a lot of people out there that don't have your dad, that don't have my dad. And we can help supply that support for them. I think that that's very important. And I did have a presenter apply today, and I was like, I think your topic is awesome. I think you're awesome. Now what you need to do is go and practice, do a free session in front of your, your fellow instructors, or do a free workshop down the road for somebody else. Practice. So when you get up in front of this crowd, you feel more comfortable. And we can provide that support to help them succeed. Alexis, how are you now? I want to hear the end of the story. You had these women that you met with, and you were able to immerse yourself in a very uncomfortable situation. And how did it turn out?
That particular situation, it turned out great. I got a lot of information. They ended up recording some videos for Chair One Fitness, because I was very transparent. I said, people who have spinal cord injuries need somebody who looks like them. And unfortunately, that's not me. And I said, I need your help in order to let people know that we're here, that there is something for them, right? So that conversation turned out well. And I didn't want to not comment on what Sheldon had stated as far as his dad. First of all, I find it very funny because my dad did the same exact thing. He sat me down and he said, Alexis, you got 2 strikes against you already. You're Black and you're a woman. That means you have to work twice as hard to even get ahead on anything. He was like, it's going to be hard for you. I'm just letting you know. And that was about the most I got. I didn't really get the support. I just got that advice and then no help after that. I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. And as a result, and I don't know if other people have felt this before, but when I went into different things, I knew that, number one, you better get there 15 minutes early, because if you're late, they're going to look at you like you're a Black person being late. You better not stutter, because if you stutter, if you flub a word, you're going to sound like an idiot, and they're going to think you're an idiot because you're Black.
Oh, I think we lost.
We didn't have the same.
You're back.
Go ahead, Alexa.
Lost me?
Just for a little bit. We got you back, babe.
But yeah. So, yeah. I was just going to say it was difficult because sometimes on a corporate level, we weren't shown the same level of grace. It was more scrutiny. And so we really had to be on point.
Yeah, I hear you. I remember my first corporate meeting that I went to. I think I've told Sheldon this story. It was Les Mills, and I was wearing a little strappy top and capris, and I sat cross-legged on the chair. And I looked around this room and I thought to myself, you will never dress like that again. And from then on, I wore suits to every single thing, or I wore a dress with a jacket. I mean, I stepped it up. And it's because it's a little bit of that scrutiny. And of course, I've only got one strike. I'm female. But this is very encouraging that there's leaders within your life, like your dad and both of your dads talking to you. And you guys who are listening, you can find those leaders out there for yourself. If it's not your mom, if it's not your dad, if it's not your spouse, find those leaders in your life that support you, also help you look in a mirror and say, these are some things you can do to excel. Siri, what else can corporate America do or everyday people do to be more inclusive for diversity?
Well, one thing, listening to these stories is heartbreaking, right? Because I think, Sheldon, you were mentioning equity earlier. What we want to reach is a world where no one has to give or receive that advice, where no one has to work twice as hard to get the same opportunity, right? So that would be the question that I would put to all of us tonight is, what can I do today and tomorrow to go toward that world where no one needs to work extra hard to get the same opportunity or to be viewed the same way or to get the same reward or evaluation as anyone else? I think anytime you have control over things like who gets to teach on the schedule, who gets a promotion, who gets a raise, who gets to go to that external conference to represent the company, or who gets to be mentored by a senior executive and have visibility in front of the higher ups, right? These are all opportunities for people to stretch themselves, for career advancement, for more money, for all these good things. We should be asking ourselves, anytime those opportunities are on the table, how are we distributing them? Who are they going to? Let's look for patterns. Let's look over a couple of years. Who are the people we always send to those conferences? Or who are the people who are getting raises? Are there any patterns here, whether it's gender or race or whatever other characteristic, right? Because whenever we see systematic patterns, that might be an indication that it's not total fairness. That's the basis for making those decisions. And we have an opportunity to correct. Just like Sara, you were saying, you looked around the room and said, let me look at all these pictures. Do I spot any pattern? Oh, wow, I spot a pattern. They're all white and they're super skinny. And now let me look around the room. Who's here attending this mania? Well, they're not all white and they have its bodies of all shapes and sizes with fabulous capabilities. So let's close the gap there like you did.
Yeah, we still have more to close. We're always striving.
It's forever a work in progress, but it doesn't mean it's not worth it to do the work.
But it also, I think on a broader level, that I think we have to look at situations and accept failure in some regard. Mm. And what I mean by that is there are going to be things that you're going to apply for that you're not going to get. And it's like, well, I'm just going to try again. And so continuing on, because I think people don't realize sometimes that, opportunity is just around the corner. I can't even believe this. We're like getting out of time. I'm going to ask you real quickly, if you wouldn't mind, Siri, can you give us a quick little close of some things that you can leave our listeners with?
Well, number one, I hope that you'll take this evening as inspiration to start this conversation or continue this conversation wherever you are, whoever is your work team, your clients, your students, your colleagues, your managers. I want to reinforce Alexis's point about going to the most marginalized person or the person who is perhaps least likely to succeed or belong in your environment and asking them how you could do better. Because you might look around and think, oh, we've got it nailed down here. We're so inclusive and everybody's all buddy-buddy. It's great. And then you ask the one person who looks different from everyone else and you say, hey, how do you feel? Do you feel like you truly belong here? Well, that's where the truth is going to come out. And so continue these conversations and continue educating yourself. There's a ton of material out there, both more broadly, but also specific to the fitness industry with really great tips and specific actions of how you can be more inclusive. So put the onus on yourself to learn and then to put it into action.
Great. Thank you. And Alexis?
This has been fabulous. I always love coming on these things with you, Sara. You're awesome. And I really enjoyed Siri because most of the time when people say my name, Alexa goes off. But in this case, you have Alexa and Siri. So
yeah, I didn't even notice that.
You got it.
Yes, it's fun that you're on this as well. I just truly enjoyed it. If there was anything that I would leave with as far as being inclusive from a corporate level, because you have corporate and then you have the actual instructors. So from a corporate level, I would say, remember that sometimes people of different races or different backgrounds or different financial backgrounds don't have the resources. So they actually don't even know you exist and they don't know how to find you. So if you want to find them, possibly partner up with a high school that's in downtown or in whatever, the lower end area, the ones who they don't have a lot of resources, and say, hey, for 7 days, we're going to let somebody come in and mentor the CEO. And it'll just give them exposure like, wow, I didn't even know this kind of thing existed. And it's like an eye opener. Or even if it was with like a local college university, we're going to take on 2 interns. And that way you're actually training them to do the job that they didn't know how to do, that they couldn't apply for because they didn't know how to do it, right? So now you're actually onboarding them and training them your way and molding them. So that's something from a corporate level that can be done. From an instructor level or from the small business owner level, I think always trying. I know you gave the stat about how men and women apply differently. There is the book, The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, and he quoted the stats on
What's the name of the book again?
The 4-Hour Workweek by
The 4-Hour Workweek, everybody. Okay, thank you.
That's like my business Bible.
Yeah, I've got it right over there.
Yeah. So, but basically, he stated that many times it is easier to get a higher level position than a lower level position because more people apply down here. So if you really want to advance, shoot your shot, take the chance, apply for the upper level position, and don't sell yourself short. And I know it's hard. I know it's scary. If you want to do what I do, I type it out as fast as I can and then I close my laptop. I'm like, done, did it, done.
Yeah, I love it. It's like, what do they say? Perfection is the killer of productivity. Just get it done.
Yes.
And Sheldon, my friend.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's, first of all, thank you again, Sara, for having me here. Alexis, Manuel, and Siri for your insight. Siri, I was very, very just so impressed and wowed by some of your insight on this topic. So please continue this great work that you're doing. Again, I can speak from my experience doing this where I work. The biggest win for us, however it may relate to you, is the folks who have the power to make a decision. You have to have a conversation about this. You have to have some tough conversation about this and be willing to expose yourself to how you can improve. It does take a growth mindset to do that, because if you do that, it will trickle around to the people who you are engaged with, and absolutely include everybody as much as you can, at least, and how you create an environment that feels like it is inclusive. Everybody wants to feel respected and wants to feel heard. And when you do that, you're heading in the right direction. And if you're somebody who is in a decision-making position right now and you're considering this, how do I make this work? What are my first steps? I think it is okay for it not to be perfect today. It is just a matter of just starting to have this conversation, and so that's what I really would say has been the biggest thing for us to do. So I appreciate it, Sara.
Thank you guys so much. And I am going to end like I always do with a fun video. We have Live Stream Mania Express that is coming to us soon. So here we go. Well, one of the things that makes me, I know, oh, there we go. And it's playing again and I'm going to stop it. All right, there we go. I'm like so thankful that that video made me nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, I hope we have people of color. I hope we have all, we created this video like a month ago, and I'm like, oh, thank God. So anyway, thank all of you.
It looked great.
Thank all of you for joining us. Manuel, I know you're gone, but I know we love you. Thank you, Alexis. Thank you, Sheldon. Thank you, Siri. My favorite thing is I've got Alexis and I've got Siri.
Wow. Love it.
Thank good you have a sense of humor. Goodness, you have a sense of humor, Sheldon. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much,
tonight.
everybody.
And
thanks for having us.
Yes. And thank you, Chris, for running the webinar. I didn't even thank you. So thank you, guys. Have a great night.